Hello and welcome back to Get Great at Maths. I'm here to help you pass your maths exam, so hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to look at keywords, key formulas and how to gain top marks. So let's get ready to get great at maths. This is a question on equivalent fractions and you're asked to match the shaded fraction of each circle to the same shaded fraction of the rectangle. So you've got the circles on the left and you've got the rectangles on the right, and you've got to match the pairs up. You're told that the first one has been done for you. So this one here is a half a circle and half the rectangle has been coloured in, which is why there's a line drawn between the two of them. You've got to match the other ones up for 1 mark. So your key facts. You need to work out the fractions. You need to write down what each of these fractions are on both sides. And then you've got to cancel your fractions by dividing the numerator and the denominator by a number that is common to both. So you've got to find a number that is common to both. So for example, on this one, this is 2 shaded out of 4 in total. So 2 over 4 is the same as 1 over 2, because you can halve 2 to give you 1 and halve 4 to give you 2. So they are equivalent. That's why these two diagrams are the same. You've got to work out the rest of them. So press pause, see if you can work out which ones go together. So which of these circles go with which rectangle, and then press play when you've got your answer. Hello and welcome back. Hopefully you've managed to match which one of these circles goes with the rectangles. So we're going to look at the answer, and we're going to start off by working out the fractions of the circles. So you can see here there are 4 sections. One is shaded, so that is the same as 1 over 4, or a quarter. Here I've got 3 sections of this circle, 1, 2, 3. 2 of them are coloured in, so that is equivalent to 2/3. So 2 coloured in out of 3, 2/3. The bottom one down here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections, so we're in fifths, and 1, 2, 3 have been coloured in, so that is 3/5. Now we're on to the rectangles, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coloured in, and along here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the top, so another 5 underneath, that's 10. So we have got 6 out of 10. Now 6 and 10 are both even, and they can both be divided by 2. A half of 6 is 3, a half of 10 is 5, so 6 over 10 is equivalent to 3/5. So you need to draw a line using a ruler between these two diagrams. You could also see, if you just look at the top half of this picture, so out of the top 5, there's 1, 2, 3 being coloured in out of the 5 in total. So half the diagram is 3/5, which is what you've got in this diagram on the left-hand side for the circle. On to the next diagram, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 shaded out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in total. So that's 4 out of 6. Again, both these numbers are even. So halving 4 gives me 2, halving 6 gives me 3. So that gives me 2/3. Again, if you look at the diagram here, on half of the diagram, you've got 1, 2 out of 3, which is equivalent to 2/3. So these two diagrams are equivalent. The last one, I've got 2 shaded out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 2 out of 8. Halving 2 gives me 1. Halving 8 gives me 4. So I've got 1 over 4, which is the quarter. So again, these two match up. It's always worth checking that the last one matches up to make sure that you have got the other ones correct. Again, if you look at half the diagram, so the top half of this, that's 1 out of 4 sections in the top, which is what you've got on this diagram here. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Great work, well done. Here you can see the mark scheme for 1 mark for getting all of them correct. So you can see how they've been matched up. It says do not accept a shaded circle matched to more than 1 shaded rectangle. So each one has to match up with 1 diagram. So you cannot do 1 circle going to 2 rectangles. That will not give you any marks. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. Remember, tell your friends. This is a question on negative numbers. You're told the temperature in a freezer is negative 40 degrees Celsius and the temperature increases by 10 degrees Celsius. You've got to work out the new temperature. Remember, anything that you've got to do is always written in this blue box here, gives you the instruction as to what you've got to do, and then you've got to write your answer in the box provided with the degree C, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. Now remember, when you're looking at any question involving negative numbers, you need to either draw or imagine a number line in your head so you can see whether you're getting bigger or you're getting smaller. So you're looking at increasing. So increasing means you're getting bigger. So you need to know that you're making this number 10 degrees bigger. So you've got to work out which way you go to make this number 10 degrees bigger. Press pause, see if you can work out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to draw yourself out a number scale. So I've got negative 40, just counting up in tens, negative 30, negative 20, negative 10, 0, 10. And we're starting at negative 40. So this is where we're starting. Now we're increasing. That means we're going bigger. So if you think of 0 getting bigger, adding on 10, this is going to the right. So this is getting bigger. So 10 times bigger, or adding on 10 takes you to here. So it's the same when we start at negative 40. We're going to add on 10. So as we add on 10 to negative 40, it takes me to this value here, which is negative 30. Make sure you think about the number line as to you going the right way. Make sure the negative is in front of the 30, so you've written down the number correctly, and make sure you haven't gone backwards and you haven't gone to negative 50. So it can be confusing if you haven't got a number line drawn out. You don't just add 10 onto 40 to give you 50 and put a minus in front of it. That will give you the wrong answer. You've subtracted 10 by going this way, but by adding 10, you go to the right, so it becomes negative 30. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is negative 30 for 1m, which means 1 method mark. It says do not accept 30 with a negative sign afterwards. So you have to put the negative before the 30, not afterwards, to get the mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. Here's a question on money. You're told that Jack buys milk and orange juice. So you can see here the carton of milk is £1.45 and the carton of orange juice is £2.40. You're told he pays with a £5 note. So that means he gives the shopkeeper a £5 note. You've got to work out how much change he gets. So that is how much money the shopkeeper gives him back after he has given the note in. Now you have to show your method, so that means in this box here you have to write down all your working, and then you need to write your answer in the smaller box here with the pound sign in it, and this will give you 2 marks in the exam. Now you need to remember your key facts, but £1 is equivalent to 100 pence, so you may need to use that to help you when you're working out the answer. So you've got your amounts here in pounds, and then you've got your answer in pounds. You can just work in pounds, but you may find it useful to convert if you prefer to work in pence. Press pause, have a go at working out how much change he gets, and then press play when you're ready to get the answer. Fantastic work. So welcome back, and hopefully you've managed to come up with how much change he gets. So to start with, we want to know how much money he actually spent in the shop. So to do that, we need to take the £1.45 and the £2.40, and we need to add them together. So 5 plus 0 is 5. Remember, we always start on the right hand side when we're adding. 4 plus 4 is 8. The decimal point stays in place. And 1 plus 2 is 3. So we've got £3.85 is what the items cost. But we've got a £5 note. Now £5 is 500 pennies. Or if you write it in terms of pounds, you have to put the zeros afterwards. So it's 5.00. So £5 is 5.00. The £3.85 is how much we spent on the milk and the orange juice. So we need to work out the change, so we've got to subtract these numbers. Again, we start on the right hand side. We cannot do 0 take away 5, so we have to borrow from the next number at the top. There is nothing here, So we have to borrow from the next one. So we're going to cross out the 5 and we put a 4 because that's one less than 5. And we're going to make this a 10. So we've now got 10 here. So I can now cross out my 10 and make it a 9. And I need to borrow a 1 to put in here. So I've now got 10 take away 5, which is 5. 9 take away 8, which is 1. The decimal point remains in the same place. And 4 take away 3 is also 1. So my answer that goes in here is £1.15 or 1.15 for the 2 marks. Now you will get 1 mark for showing your work in here and 1 mark for the answer. If you get the answer correct, you will get the full 2 marks, but it is really important to show where you're getting the answer from rather than just working it all out in your head and making a mistake. So please write down how you're doing it. So the working or your method is what you are doing. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is up to 2 marks. Comment below to let me know how many marks you got on this question. You've done really well. Great work. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on rounding, and you're told the diameter of the moon is 3,476 kilometres, and you've got to work out the diameter to the nearest 100 kilometres, and you've got to write your answer in this box here, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. So your key facts, remember, if you're rounding, you've got number 5 or above, you round up. So 5 to 9, climb the vine. There are lots of different sayings to help you remember. These are my favourite ones. If you've got 4 or below, you keep the number the same. So 0 to 4, slide to the floor. Remember your place values, so your ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. So in this case, we're just going up to thousands here. And we're going to be rounding to the nearest hundred. So that's the 3rd digit in your hundreds column. Press pause, see if you can work out what the answer is, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well, welcome back. Hopefully you've managed to work out how to round this number. Now the key bit when you're rounding is looking at the number that is where the hundreds is. So the hundreds column here is the 3rd one along. You've got the ones, the tens, the hundreds. So the 4 is in the hundreds column. So to help us decide what we're going to do when we round, we look at the number before it. So we look at the 7. Then we've got to say, is 7 5 or above, or is it 4 or below? So if it's 5 or above, then we climb the vine. So 7 is 5 or above, so we're going to climb the vine. So that means this 7, okay, is going to make this next number here, the 4, become a 5, the other digits become 0. Now, some people struggle to understand what we're doing when we're rounding. Now, they will know that the number has either got to be 3,400 or 3,500. Okay, but they're not sure which one it's going to be, whether it goes to 400 or whether it goes to 500. Now, if we've got a scale here where we've got 3,400 at one end and 3,500 at the other end, between 400 and 500 is 450, so this is 3,450. Now, 3,476 has got to be bigger than 3,450. So if I put a cross here, because it is bigger than 3,450, this cross is closer to 3,500, which means the answer is 3,500. So you can do it diagrammatically if you prefer, but the easiest way is to look to the digit to the right of what you're rounding to. So because it's to the nearest 100, this is 400, we look to the right of that, which looks at the 7. The 7 is 5 or higher, so we're going to climb the vine because it's 5 or above. So climbing the vine means this 4 becomes a 5, so I've got a 5 in the hundreds column now, and the other digits just become 0 because I'm writing it to the nearest 100, so it's closest to 500. So 3,500 is the correct answer, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. You can see the mark scheme on this question is 3,500 for 1M, which means 1 method mark. Comment below to let me know how you got on with this question. Could you do it? What was your answer? Let me know how you found it. Remember, if you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get greater at maths. This is a question on Roman numerals. We've got to match the Roman numeral to the number. Told that the first one has been done for you, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. So on the left hand side you've got the Roman numerals, and on the right hand side you've got the numbers, and you've got to draw a line between them to match them up. Now your key facts, you need to know what your Roman numerals are. Now there are songs that are out there that will help you remember what your Roman numerals are. I'm just going to tell you what they are, and if you want to use the songs to help you remember, then that is fine. So the number 1 is the letter I. So if I want 2, it is 1 plus 1, which is 2 lots of I, so I. Number 3 is 3 ones, so 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is the same as I plus I plus I. Now it changes when we get to 4. Okay, so otherwise we're going to end up with so many 1s or I's across there, you can't tell which number is which. So the number 5 is a V. So 4 is 1 before 5. So a V means 5, but the one before it is 5 take away 1, which is 4. 5 on its own is just V. If I want 6, it's the 5 plus 1, so 5 plus 1 gives me 6. So if the number is afterwards, or the letter is after the bigger value, then it adds on, and if it's before, you subtract. Now you've got to look for the biggest value here. So the 5 is the biggest value, the 1 is after it, so it's added on. The 1 is before the 5, which is bigger than the 1, so you subtract. 7, we're going to use a 6 plus a 1, so that is 5 plus 1 plus 1, so which is 7. 8, again add on another 1, so 5 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 gives me 8, or VIII. 9 links to 10. Now 10 is an X, but I want 1 less than 10, so it's an I and an X for a 9. 10 on its own is X. I can go through all the XI is 11, etc., but I'm going to jump straight to XX, which means 20. So 20 is 2 lots of X. 50 is the letter L. 100 is the letter C. D is the number 500. And M is 1,000. So you should be familiar with all of these, and you should be able to work out which ones go together. It does get a bit confusing when you've got to remember which one links to which letter, but just try and remember these last few. Up to 10, most people are fine up to 10, but it's when you get to these higher numbers, you've got to remember which one is which. So this first one here has been done for you. So you've got a C and a VI. Now C is 100. VI is here. VI is the number 6. So you've got 106. Now it does become confusing as to whether it is the adding or subtracting or which value it is, which way round you go. So the C stands for 100, the V stands for 5, and the I stands for 1. So you're just adding them all together because they all go in order. So you've got the biggest number, then the next biggest, and the smallest number. They all go in a row, so you just add them up. Some of these you've got to do some subtracting as well. So just work out whether you're adding or subtracting to work out how to make the numbers. Press pause. Press play when you're ready to hear the answer. So see if you can work it out, and then press play when you've got an answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer and you've matched these up. We're going to start with the top one. So we've got a D, which means 500, an X, which is 10, and a C, which means 100. Now if you think about this, I've got a hundreds, a 10 and a 100. They're not in an order. So we've got to think about using like what we did with here for number 4 with a subtract in there. So this X and C are going to go together because this is X, which is 10 less than the C. So the D stands for 500. XC is 10 less than the C. So the C is 100. 10 less than 100 is 90. So XC means 90. 500 plus 90 is 590, which is this answer here. For the next one, we're going to look at the letters. We have got a D, which is 500. We've got an L, which is 50. We've got an X, which is 10. Another X, so two X's together was the 20. And an I, which is 1. Now these numbers are all going in order, so they get smaller. So you've got a hundreds, you've got a 10, a 50, which is in the tens, two tens here, which was the 20 in the tens, and then the 1. So we're just going to work each one out as we go along. So you've got 500 plus the 50. So DL is 500 plus 50, which is 550. The two X's is 20 plus the 1 or the I, which is 21. So XXI is 21. So we've got 550 plus 21. 50 plus 20 is 70. So we've got 571. The bottom one here, just to check that we're correct, we've got MCX. Now M means 1000, C is 100, and X is 10. So these are all in order. So we know M and C is 1000 plus 100, which is 1100, plus the X, which is 10. So we're just adding each of those values together, which gives you the 1110 for the last one. You needed to get them all correct to get the 1 mark. Give yourself a big tick if you got those correct. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows where the line should have been drawn. On the right hand side it says do not accept a Roman numeral matched to more than one number. So if you've taken this one here and you matched it up here and down there, you will not get the mark. This is worth 1 mark in the exam, so 1M means 1 mark. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe and tell your friends. And remember, comment below to let me know how you found this video and what you want to see next. This is a question on equivalent fractions, and you've got to match the fraction to its equivalent simplified fraction. So here are the fractions and these are the simplified fractions, and if you can match them up with one fraction going to another fraction over here, you will get 1 mark in the exam. So your key facts are that you need to know how to cancel a fraction. So to cancel any fraction, you need to divide the numerator and the denominator by a number that is common to both numbers. So for example, on this one here, 12 over 18 cancels down to 2/3. The reason it does that is because 6 is a multiple of 12 and 18. So if we divide 12 by 6, we get 2, and divide 18 by 6, we get 3. That's why these two match up. You've got to match up the other ones. So press pause, have a go at working out which one of these fractions go with which simplified fraction, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Hello and welcome back. So hopefully you've managed to match these fractions to the simplified fraction. So well done if you've done that. So we're going to start with the top fraction up here, so 12 and 20. So you need to look at that number and you need to think, what number goes into 12 and 20? Now obviously 2 goes into that number because both these numbers are even. And if you want to keep halving this number, so half 12, half 20, and keep halving, you will get the correct answer. But there is a number bigger than 2 that goes into both of these. So 4 is the number that goes into 12 and 20. So we're going to divide both these numbers by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So we're looking at 3 over 5, this fraction here. Now if we'd have done it by halving, half of 12 is 6, half of 20 is 10. So we've got 6 over 10. Half of 6 is 3, half of 10 is 5. Will also give me 3/5. So if you prefer to do it by halving and halving again, you will get the right answer. The next fraction here, we can't just halve because 15 is an odd number. So we need to think about what number goes into 12 and 15. So both these numbers are in the 3 times table. And if it helps you to write out your 3 times table first, then write down your 3 times table before to help you cancel this fraction. So we've got to do 12 into 3. Now 12 divided by 3 is 4. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So we're looking at the fraction 4/5, so 4 over 5. The next one here, again, we've got to find a number that goes into 12 and 16. Again, these are both even, so they will halve, so you could halve it and then keep halving it until you can't go any further. The biggest number that goes into 12 and 16 is 4 again, so that is the same as halving and halving again. So we're just going to look at 12 divided by 4, which is 3, so this answer here, and 16 divided by 4 is 4, so the answer is 3/4, and you match this pair up here. If you'd have halved 12, you'd have got 6, half of 16 is 8, half of 6 is 3, half of 8 is 4, so halving and halving again would also give you the correct answer. Give yourself a big tick if you've got those correct. Great work, well done. The mark scheme on this question shows how the fractions should be matched up. It does say for 1n, which means one method mark, it says do not accept fractions that are matched to more than one fraction. So for example, if you had this top fraction and it came down here or came across there, if it does both of those, then it would not give you the mark. Please comment below and let me know how you found this question and what you want more practice on. So let me know what you'd like the next topic to be on. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. Remember, tell your friends. Now this is a number problem and you're told that Emma thinks of a number and she says that I multiply by 2, I add 11, I divide by 3 and my answer is 9. Now this is all written down for you, so you don't need to remember it as is said out. You've just got to work out what the number was. So what number was Emma thinking of? And you need to write your answer in this box here, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. Now when you've got any question like this, the easiest way to solve these type of questions is by working backwards. So we're going to start with the answer because we know the answer is 9, and then you're going to think about doing the opposite. So you need to know the opposite functions. So the opposite to adding is subtract. The opposite to subtract is add. The opposite to multiply is divide. And the opposite to divide is multiply. So in here, when it says divide, you've got to do the opposite. So the opposite of divide is multiply. So think about the opposite pairs. You're doing the opposite to get your answer. Remember, you're working backwards, so you start with the answer and then you work one step at a time, coming all the way up, and then you should be able to work out what the answer is in here. Press pause, see if you can work out the answer, and then press play when you've got an answer. Hello and welcome back, and hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer, so well done if you have got one. Let's see if you are correct. So we're going to start with this answer of 9, and it says I divide by 3. Now the opposite to divide is multiply, so we're going to do the opposite, which is 9 times 3. Now you should know your 9 times table and your 3 times table, so you should know that answer is 27. The next instruction says I add 11. So the opposite of add is subtract. So instead of adding 11 to this, we're going to subtract 11. So we're going to do the answer we've just worked out, take away 11. So 7 take away 1 is 6, 2 take away 1 is 1, so the answer is 16. Or we could have taken away 10 to give me 17, take away 1, that gives me the 16. Next it says I multiply by 2, so the opposite of multiply is divide. So instead of multiplying by 2, we're going to divide this answer by 2. So 16 divided by 2 is the same as a half of 16, and a half of 16 is 8, and that's the answer in the box here. We're going to check it out and check we get the answer 9 to check we are correct. So it says I multiply my number by 2, so 8 times 2 is 16. I'm adding on 11, so 16 plus 11 gives me the 27. And then I divide my answer by 3. 27 divided by 3 gives me the 9. So yes, it does work. She was thinking of the number 8. Give yourself a big tick if you've got the answer 8. Well done. The mark scheme shows the answer is 8 for 1m, which means 1 method mark. Comment below to let me know what answer you got on this question. Well done if you managed to get 8. Give me a big thumbs up. Great work. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. Remember, tell your friends. This question is on translation. You were told you've got a shape that you can see in the diagram here, And the key instruction is in the blue box as normal, and you've got to draw the shape after it has been translated by 8 units to the right, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. It does say down here use a ruler, so I recommend using a pencil and ruler to have a go at doing this question. So your key facts. You need to know what translating means, or translated. So it basically moves one coordinate to another point, and you can move them up and down or left and right. In this question here, we're told we're moving them right. Remember, right goes this direction here, so you've got space over here where you're going to be moving your shape to, so it gives you a bit of a clue. Remember, if you hold your hands up and form L shapes on them, the one that does the capital L is your left hand, so that means the other hand is your right hand, which helps you know which is left and right. So it's really important you know the difference between left and right. Press pause, have a go at drawing out this diagram and working out the answer, or you can do a screenshot on it or take a picture on right over on your phone or on your computer to help you get the answer. Okay, well done. So hopefully you managed to draw this out, get an answer, used your pencil and ruler to show what the translated shape looks like. So great work if you've managed to do that. So we're going to start off with the bottom corner here in the right, and we're going to move it 8 spaces to the right. So the right is this direction, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we put a cross where we get to this point. We're now going to go to the next coordinate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we put a cross here. The top one, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the bottom one down here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when all the coordinates have been moved over 8 spaces to the right, we just need to rejoin the shape using your pencil and your ruler, and this is the answer you will get for 1 mark in the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you managed to draw that out correctly. So make sure you know what this word translated means. It just means move a shape from one place to another. The orientation of the shape remains exactly the same. It's not twisted around. It looks exactly the same, just in a different location. The mark scheme on this question shows that the diagram is over here for 1M, which means 1 method mark. It does say to accept slight inaccuracies in the drawing, provided the intention is clear. So make sure it is on the correct points and it is nice and clear to definitely guarantee getting that 1 mark. Comment below to let me know how you got on with this question. And if you found this video useful, please share, like, or subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a number problem, and you have got to write in the missing numbers in the table. So you're told the table has got the number of weeks and then the number of days. Now this relates to days of the week. So in 1 week we have got 7 days. In 2 weeks we have got 14 days. 4 weeks you've got 28 days. You've got to work out how many days there are in 6 weeks and 10 weeks. And then if you have got 105 days, you've got to work out how many weeks it was, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. So your key facts, you need to know that 1 week is 7 days, which it tells you in the table here. So that is going to help you work out how to fill in the missing gaps here. Press pause, see if you can work out what the missing numbers are, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So the first one is nice and easy. So we're working out how many days. So if we're going from the number of days in how many weeks we've got to the number of days, all we've got to do is multiply by 7. So to go from this column to this column, we're multiplying by 7. So 6 times by 7 is 42. 10 times by 7 is 70. So they're the first 2 answers. To get the last answer, we've got to work backwards. So the opposite to multiply by 7 is divide by 7. So we need to divide 105 by 7. Now some people will know what that answer is off the top of their head, but most children will not know what 105 divided by 7 is. So we have to use the bus stop method to do that. We're divided by 7, so that comes at the front of the bus stop. And what we're dividing into is the 105, so that goes underneath. We're now going to do 7 into 1, which doesn't go, and then we've got 1 left over. 7 into 10 is once, and we've got 3 left over. 7 into 35 is 5, so our answer is 15, which goes in this box here. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the table completed for 1M, which means 1 method mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on perimeter. In this question, you are asked to work out the perimeter of the shape in millimetres. You need to write your answer in the box here, and the question says you need to use your ruler. And you need to use your ruler to measure to help you work out the perimeter. This will give you 1 mark in the exam. Now the answer I'm going to show you here is going to be very different to the answer you're going to get on paper. So if you printed out the exam paper and you're working from the exam paper, or if you're looking at your computer, the TV or your phone, whatever device you're looking at, if you put a ruler to whatever device you're looking at or piece of paper you're looking at, you will all get a different answer because the diagram will be a slightly different scale to the one that I'm using at the minute. So all answers will be slightly different. The mark scheme will give you the exact answer. So if you printed out the paper, then that will be the answer they will accept in the exam. But I'm showing you the method of how to do this. So it's the method we're interested in rather than the final answer. So our key facts, we need to know what this word perimeter means. So basically the perimeter is the total distance around the outside of a shape. So if you start and go round the outside of a shape, that is the total perimeter. So working out the total distance all the way around the outside. And you need to be aware that 1 centimetre is equivalent to 10 millimetres. And your answer has got to be in millimetres, so we're going to add up the numbers together in millimetres. So I want you to think about how you would do that. If you have got a ruler to hand, you can use your ruler and then you can work out the distances for yours. Don't worry if it's different to my answer because your scale may be different to mine because of how you're looking at the question. Great work. So I'm going to put my ruler on and we're going to look at some distances. So we're going to look at the distance along the bottom to start with. So you can see here we need to line 0 up at the point A. And then the distance over here, we need to line up at the end. We need to count in millimetres. So 1 centimetre here is 10 millimetres. So each of these little lines in here is 1 millimetre. So there are 10 little lines between here and here. So if you look here, we're kind of slightly over. So the distance from here is actually 2 over the 9. So it's actually 92 millimetres or 9.2 centimetres. I'm going to write 92 because we're dealing in millimetres, not centimetres. The next one we're going to do is we're going to put the ruler from here to here. It doesn't matter the order you find the distances in as long as you get all 4 distances. So I've got 0 starting at the point C and then D's coming down here at this point here, halfway between 10 and 11. So that's 10.5 centimetres, which is going to give me 105 millimetres. The next one, I've got my ruler starting at 0 here, going across. It is slightly under the 5, so we haven't quite got to the 5, so it's actually 49 millimetres. And the last one, we're coming up here again, starting at 0 here, coming up again, it's not quite hit the 5, so it is 49 millimetres again. So to find the perimeter, we've got to add together all these numbers. So I've just put the biggest number at the top and then the next in size order going down here. It doesn't matter the order, you add the numbers together. Remember when you add, you start on the right hand side. So we've got 9 plus 9, 2 9s are 18, plus 2 is 20, plus 5 gives me 25. Here I've got 9 plus 4 is 13, plus 4 is 17 plus 2 gives me 19, so carry a 1 and add on a 9. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So that's 295, which needs to get written in the box here. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Great work. The answer here will be different to what the mark scheme is because of the scale that has been used in the diagram and the ruler that I have used as well. Your answer will be different as well, depending on how you're reading the score. So as long as you know the method and you know how to do it, you'll be fine when it comes to the exam. Now, if you've actually printed off the actual exam paper on A4 side and you'd measured each of the sides and added them together, you would find you would get a total between 202 and 218 millimetres inclusive. So you're allowed 202 to 218. You can see the answer I've just looked at is way bigger than that, just because of the scale that I've used. It is not actually to scale, so don't worry, as long as you know the method, and if you're doing it exactly on the exam and you got an answer between these two, you would be marked correct. It's not an exact answer. Anything in the range between 202 and 218 would be correct. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on measuring an angle. You have got to measure the size of angle D. It tells you need to use an angle measurer. Now, an angle measurer, we will go through what that is in a minute, and then you've got to write your answer here. So it's how many degrees you've got, and this will give you 1 mark. So you've got to measure this angle here, where the little d is here, and work out how big this angle is. Now, your key facts, an angle measure is actually a protractor. So it's one of the half semicircle things, or you may have a full circle bit of plastic, which is used to measure angles. Now you should know that an angle, we start at 0 and then it goes all the way up to 90 degrees, which gives you a right angle. Anything smaller than 90 degrees is an acute angle. So you can see the angle we've got here is less than 90 degrees, because 90 degrees would be up there, and that would make it a right angle. So we are looking at an acute angle here. So it gives you an idea as to the size of the number you're looking for. So the answer we're looking for should be less than 90. Not as much as, well, it's going to be more than 0, because 0 is nothing, and it's kind of a little bit bigger than halfway. So you've got to think about what kind of size it will be before you put your protractor on. So press pause, see if you can have a go at measuring this. It may be slightly different on the device you're using to read this, or if you've printed it out, but it should be fairly similar, because angles they go up in the same proportion, so your angle should be within the range that's tolerated on the exam, however you're reading this question. So welcome back. Hopefully you've managed to find yourself a protractor and you've managed to put the protractor on and then had a go at reading. Now, a lot of people, even if they've got a protractor, they struggle to put the protractor on the right place. So you've got to think about this line along the bottom, and we're going to call this our 0 line here, and the centre of the protractor has got to go at the point here, D. So when you place your protractor, okay, the centre of it goes here and 0 goes along this line. So lining the protractor up in this way, some students find very, very difficult. So here is my protractor, and this line here up to C is the angle we're looking at measuring. Okay, so you've got to read up here and see where this line comes out. So this line here, I've got 50 on this side of the line and 60, or 130 and 120. So you need to know how to read your protractor carefully so you get the right answer. Now, as I said earlier, 90 was the right angle that you can see in here, and this angle is smaller than a right angle. It's a acute angle, so it is smaller than 90. So we're looking at the numbers between 50 and 60. To do that without remembering that it's going to be an acute angle, 0 starts at this point here. So this is 0, count round 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then it's halfway between 50 and 60. Is 55 in the middle, but it's slightly over, so I'm going to say it's 56 degrees. If you'd have gone the other way, it starts at 180, and this is counted down, so that makes no sense whatsoever. So you have to start at 0. So if you were on this side, you'd be using 0 from this side, but because our angle is between here and here, you have to start where the 0 is and come round until we get to the value. So I've got a value of 56. In the exam, you will get a range of values that you can have your answer between, but as long as you're between those two values that's given, you will be correct. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Well done, you've done great work. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is between 53 and 57 degrees inclusive, and this is for 1M, which is one method mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on subtraction. In this question, you need to work out the missing digits to make the subtraction correct. This will give you 2 marks in the exam. So your key facts, you need to start on the right hand side when you're subtracting. So this is the right hand side here. And you need to work through in order. So think about what you will have to do to get the answer in each of the boxes when you're subtracting. Press pause so if you can think about what the 3 numbers are in the box, and then press play when you've got yourself an answer. Hello and welcome back. So hopefully you've managed to come up with 3 different answers. So we're looking at a number here, take away 5 and the answer's 8. Now you might be thinking that is impossible. We can't do a number take away 5 to get 8 because 8 is bigger than 5. So the number must be bigger than, but it must be a larger number in here. So to work out what this number here is, if you do 5 plus 8, that will work out what this number here is. So you can count on your fingers if you need to, or 5 can be split into 2 and 3, and we know 8 plus 2 is 10, add on the 3 gives me 13. So this number here will be a 13. So we're going to carry a little 1 up here and write the 3 in here. So the number in this box here will be a 3. You couldn't do 3 take away 5, so you have to do 13 take away 5 to give you 8. Now because we've borrowed a 1 here, we've borrowed from this 7, so that means we had to have crossed out the 7 and taken 1 less from it to give this a 6. So if you'd have been going normally, you'd have had a 7 here and had to borrow. So you'd have crossed out the 7, made it a 6, and then borrowed a 1 in here to make it this a 13. Now you've got to do 6 take away something gives you 6. So the only way to get 6 again is 6 take away 0 is 6. And that means this last one is just 5 take away 3, which is 2. If you've got 2 of these boxes, any of these 2 boxes correct, you'd have got 1 mark. All 3 of them correct will give you 2 marks. Give yourself a big tick if you've got those correct. Great work, well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 2, 0 and 3. If the answer is incorrect, award 1 mark for 2 boxes completed correctly. So up to 2M means up to 2 marks. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on fractions. You're given 4 fractions, 7 over 8, 1/5, 3/4 and 8 over 10. And you've got to work out the fractions in order starting with the least, where the least goes on the left hand side and then it gets in order here, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. So your key facts, you need to find your common denominator. Now the denominator is the number at the bottom of the fraction, so you've got to work out what number does 8, 5, 4 and 10 all go into. You've then got to write all fractions with the same denominator, so you've got to work out what your common denominator is and then write all the fractions with that same denominator. And then you've got to order them from smallest to largest. Now this word here, least, means the smallest. So you're starting with the smallest, which means you're going up to the biggest, or from the smallest number to the largest fraction. And you've got to use the original fractions that you got here in the answer box here. If you do use equivalent ones, then you will still be marked correct, but it is good practice for GCSE to get in the habit of writing down the original fractions that you got in the answer box here. Press pause, have a go at working out your equivalent fractions and ordering them, and then work out what your answer is. When you've got yourself an answer, press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Great work. Hopefully you've managed to write down what these fractions are in the correct order. So make sure you grab yourself a pen and paper to write down what you're doing as you go along. Remember, you can pause the video at any point you need to. So we're going to start off by looking for our common denominator. So we're looking at these numbers and we can see they are all even. So that means our denominator will be even. Now, the number it's going to go into has got to end in a 0 because it's got to be in the 10 times table. So we've got 10, 20. If we think about the next one, 20, 4 and 5 both go into 20, which is a good sign, which means we're going to be going up in 20s because 10 doesn't go into this number here. So if I do 30, 4 wouldn't fit into 30. So we've got 20. Then if you think we can't do 30 because 4 won't fit into it, then we're going to go to 40. So we know 4 and 5 will go into 40. Does 8 go into 40? Yes, it does. So I found my lowest common denominator. So the lowest common denominator is 40. You can think that 4 goes into 8, 5 goes into 10. So then that will help you work out what your denominators are because these numbers go into each other. So the lowest common denominator is 40. So we're going to start off with this first fraction. We've got to make the denominator 40, so you've got to think, what do I times 8 by to get 40? And the answer is 5. So we've got to do the same to top and bottom, so the numerator and the denominator. So 7 times 5 is 35, which will be my numerator over here. 8 times 5 is going to give me 40, so I've got 35 over 40. I do the same to the top number as well as the bottom number in order to get my new fraction. All the denominators need to be 40 before I can order them down here. The next one, I've got a denominator of 5 and now I want to make it 40, so I'm going to multiply both of them by 8. I should really have an arrow going from both of the numbers, but I've shown you in full working here, so I've just put times 8 because I'm going to run out of room to write all these fractions. So we're going to times the top number by 8, so 1 times 8 is 8. 5 times 8 is 40, so my answer is 8 over 40. So far, this one is the smallest, because 8 over 40 is smaller than 35 over 40. The next one here, we've got 3/4. So 4 goes into 40 10 times, so we're going to do times by 10. So we've got to multiply both numbers by 10. 3 times 10 is 30. 4 times 10 is 40, giving me 30 over 40. The next one here, the denominator is 10. To make the 40, I've got to times by 4. So I'm going to do the same to both numbers. So 8 times 4 is 32 and 10 times 4 is 40, leaving me with 32 over 40. Now I've got these new fractions here, I've got to work out which of these is the least, which is the smallest. So this one here is the smallest number. 8 is the smallest number out of 8, 35, 30 and 32. So 8 is going to go first. So 8 over 40 is first. But we're going to write the original fraction, which is 1/5. So this fraction here is going to come down here. The next smallest number after 8 is the number 30. So the next fraction I'm going to write down is 3/4. So 30 over 40 is the same as 3/4, so I'm going to write 3/4. Remember, we write down the original numbers or the original fractions that were given in the answer box down here. Now it's between these two here. So we've used these first two here, so it's between 32 and 35. The next smallest or the next least is 32. So that means the 8 over 10 is going to get written here. And the largest one is the 35, which means we're going to write down the 7 over 8 over here. This is the correct order that you need to write them in to get the full mark in the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. The mark scheme shows the fractions in the correct order. This will give you 1 M or 1 method mark in the exam. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a number problem and we're going to be looking at boxes and a truck and working out the different sizes to work out the total mass of the truck. So we're looking at weight. The question is written here. You've got to show your method, which means write down what you're thinking and what your working is in this box here. And the answer needs to get written in this box here. And you'll get a total of 2 marks for the exam. So our keywords in the question are to work out the total mass of the 20 boxes on the truck. So you're told that 4 of these are 6.5 kilograms, 8 of the boxes are 4 kilograms, 6 of the boxes are 2.5 kilograms, and 2 of the boxes are 13 kilograms. And they're all on this truck, and you've got to work out the total mass in kilograms. This will give you 2 marks in the exam. Your key facts. You need to know how to multiply and shortcuts to multiply and to be able to do it in your head quickly and easily. So, for example, when you're multiplying by 4, you can double the digits and then double again. So that is a quick way to multiply by 4 if you're unsure of what the multiplication is. The next one is multiplying by 6. Now, multiplying by 6 is the same as multiplying by 3 and then doubling, because 3 times 2 is 6. Or you could do it the opposite way around. You could double and then multiply by 3. But again, because 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So these are shortcuts to help you multiply by 4 or 6 in your head. So use these shortcuts to multiply. See if you can work out what the total mass of this truck is and then get your answer written down. Get yourself a pen and paper or use a whiteboard or a Chromebook, whatever you need to help you get the answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to work through this puzzle and get yourself an answer. Remember to show your working as it says here on the left. So show your method. So write down the numbers that you need to work out. These written numbers need to be written in this box here. I'm going to show my working around here so you can clearly see where it is, but then I'm also going to include some information in here. So to start with, we have got numbers of boxes and the weight. So to work out the total mass of each of these different boxes, we need to multiply how many boxes you've got by the mass. So you're going to do 4 times 6.5, 8 times 4, 6 times 2.5 and 2 times 13 to work out the mass of each of the individual boxes. And then to find the total, you've got to add them all together. So the total is an add to get the total mass. Again, if you haven't quite got an answer, remember you can pause at any point through the video. So we're going to start off by looking at 8 times 4 because that's an easy calculation that you should know off the top of your head. So 8 times 4 is 32. Or as I've put over here, double and double again. Double 8 is 16. Double 16, if you're unsure on that one, double 10 is 20. Double 8 is 16. Add them together, gives you 32. Next, we're going to look at 4 times 6.5. So again, we're going to double and double again. So doubling 6 gives me 12. Double 12 is 24. Double 0.5 is 1. Double it again is 2. So 24 plus 2 is 26. The next one we're going to look at is 2 times 13. Nice and easy. So just doubling 13, which is 26. And then we've got 6 times by 2.5. Now 2.5 is a decimal number, so we're going to use this trick here for multiplying by 3. So we can times it by 3 then double, or double then times by 3. Now because it's got a decimal, if I double first, it makes it easier because it gets rid of this fraction. So 6 is the same as 3 times 2, and we know that 2 times 2.5 is equivalent to doubling 2.5, so double 2 is 4. Double a half is 1, so 4 plus 1 is 5. So that is the same as 2 times 2.5 is 5. So this is the same as 3 times 5. And 3 times 5 we know is 15. So all these weights I've worked out here, we now need to add to find the total mass. So we need to write down all these weights. So you've got 2 plus 6 plus 6 plus 5. So you need to work that out. So if you think of 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 5 is 17, plus 2 is 19, so you're going to carry a 1 and you put the 9 underneath. Next we've got 3 plus 2 is 5, plus another 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8, plus another 1 is 9. So again we've got another 9, which gives me 99 kilograms. So that is just the working that I'm thinking in my head to help you get the answer. Give yourself a big tick if you manage to get 99 kilograms all on your own. Great work, well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 99 kilograms for 2 marks, or up to 2m, which means up to 2 method marks. You will get 1 mark for showing all this information down here and then trying to add, or for making a simple mistake. You can get 2 marks for getting 99,000 grams, as long as you've included the unit. There are other information over here to be able to tell you what you need to do to gain the 1 mark or whether it's worth 2 marks. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on pie charts, and you're told that you've got some data and you can see it in the table here, and you've got the labels on the left hand side and the percentage on the right hand side, and you're told to use the data, draw 2 lines and write 3 labels to complete the pie chart. So this is a pie chart. Anything you see with a circle is generally a pie chart where it's marked off into different sections. You must use a ruler when you're doing this to work out your answer so it is exact. So make sure you have got a ruler and a pencil with you in the exam, and this will give you 2 marks in the exam. So when you're looking at pie charts, your key facts are that you should know that there are 360 degrees in a circle. So this pie chart here all the way round back to the start is 360 degrees. Because this question involves percentages, we need to remember that percentages out of 100%, so the whole of this circle is equivalent to 100%. And you need to count off the sections that are marked off. So you need to count round and see how many sections there are here and see if that will help us work out where to draw the lines for these different sections. So press pause, see if you can work out where the lines will go, and then press play when you've got an answer. Fantastic work. So this one's a little bit more difficult to draw out if you do not have the diagram with you. So you can just look at the screen and work out where the lines would go rather than drawing it all out. Or if you've got it on your phone, you could just screenshot and then you can just draw over with a pen over where you think the lines will go. But we're going to start off the top at A, which is 20%. So this section up here is equivalent to 20%. So you can see here I've got 2 lines here, which is equivalent to 20%. Now we're just going to count how many sections there are going all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we know 10 sections is equivalent to 100%. So if I do 100 divided by the 10 sections we've got, that gives me 10, which means each section here is worth 10%. So you can see here I've got 1 section, 2 sections, that is 20%. Here I've got 1 section, 2 sections, again another 20%, then half of 1, which is 5%. So this section here is 25%, and it says in the table it is 25%. So you can use the marks round the side to count round to help you work out what the percentages are. So we've got to do the same for C. So we've got 15%. So we know that this section here was a 5%. So I've got a 5% here plus a 10%. So 5 plus 10 is 15. So you need to use your pencil and ruler to draw a line here. And this would be section C. It does say you must complete the labels. So you need to put the line in the right place and then say how big, which section it's referring to. Now it doesn't matter whether C was down the bottom or whether C was at the top. I've just carried on going round. Next we've got D, which is 30%. So that's 10, 20, 30%. So we need to draw a line across here and label this section D, which means section E is left at 10%, which is 1 section here, which is the top section here. It doesn't matter the order that you drew C, D and E on the diagram, you will still get the 2 marks for drawing those. You'll get 1 mark for doing one of them correctly. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Great work, well done. The mark scheme on this question shows it's up to 2M for 2 method marks. You can see here it doesn't matter the order you've done the letters. So I did C, D, E, but here we've got C, E, D or D, E, C. Any of those are correct and will give you the 2 marks. Because if the answer is incorrect, award 1 mark for 1 sector drawn and labelled correctly. So if you've done one of these little sections correctly, you will get 1 mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a percentage problem, and in this question we're going to look at the keywords in the question. So you're told you've got 35% of 680 pupils have got a dog. 159 of these pupils that have the dog are boys. And you've got to work out, so this bit in blue, this is always in blue, the key command that you've got to do, how many pupils have got the pet dog that are girls. You've got to work out how many pupils are girls. So they're the key words of the question. Now on the left hand side here it says show your method, which means you must write down any working or calculations that you're doing in your head as you go along in this space here to be able to get the answer that you've got to write in the box on the bottom right hand corner. This will give you 2 marks in the exam if you can do this. So your key facts, we need to know how to find the percentage. So we've got 35% and we need to know the maximum percentage is always out of 100. And the steps to find 35%, in order to do that, first of all, we need to find 10% by dividing by 10. We need to find 30% by multiplying the answer you've just worked out by 3. Then to find 5%, you're going to divide the answer to 10% by 2 to work out 5%. Then if you add together the answer you got for 30% and 5%, that will give you the answer to 35%. Once you've done those steps to work out 35%, that will tell you how many people have got dogs. You're told 159 of them are boys, and you need to work out how many are girls. So have a think about how you're going to do it, and see how I've taken key bits of information from the question to break down the problem to make it easier. So press pause. Get yourself a pen and paper, see if you can work out the answer, and then when you've got an answer, press play. Welcome back. So hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer and you've worked out how many people are girls, or how many of the pupils, that means how many children, students, whichever word you prefer to use, are female or girls. So we're going to start off with 35% of 680. So we're going to start off with step 1, which is to divide by 10. And the reason we do that is because we know a percentage is out of 100. And in this square here, you've got 10 along the top and 10 down the side. So 10 times 10 is 100. So 10% is one little strip. So 10 squares is 10%. So if the whole thing is 100%, to find one strip, which is 10%, which are 10 squares, you're going to divide 100 by 10 to work out what one strip is, which is this first step here. Find 10% by dividing by 10. So 680 divided by 10. When we divide by 10, remember all the digits move one place to the right. So the 6 will go into the 10s, the 8 will go into the 1s, and the 0 goes behind the decimal point. So 680 divided by 10 is 68. If your number does end in a 0, you can take a 0 off the end, which is the same as dividing by 10. So if you got rid of this 0 here, the answer is 68. Next, we need to work out 30%. Now, if 10% is one strip, 1, 2, 3 strips is going to be 30%. So 30 little squares out of this whole thing here is going to be 30%. So to find 30%, I've got to multiply this answer I've got here, 68, and we're going to multiply it by 3 to find 30%, because it's 3 times as much as what the 10% was in one strip. So we're going to start on the right hand side here. 3 8s are 24, so you should know your times tables. We put a little 2 up here, and then the 4 goes underneath. And 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 gives me 20. So I've got 204. Once I've got this number here, I now need to work out 5%, because we've got 35%. So it says to find 5%, we're going to divide the 10% answer by 2, because 5% is 5 little squares. So if we know the total strip down here, which is 10%, which was 68, half of it is 5 little squares. So we're just going to take the 68 answer and we're going to divide it by 2. So 5 little squares is half of a whole strip. So half of 60 is 30, half of 8 is 4, so it's 34. Now I know 30% and I know 4%, I need to add these together. So 35% is this purple area and the green together. So the 30% plus the 5%, so 204 plus 34 will give me 35%. Starting on the right hand side, 4 plus 4 is 8. 3 plus 0 is 3, and a 2 at the front, so it's going to be 238. So there are 238 boys that have got a pet dog. Okay, it's irrelevant whether they've got a pet dog or not now, because all the people we're going to be looking at have got a dog. Okay, so you're told 238 have got a dog. So this is how many people have got a dog. Now, of these people that have got a dog, 159 of them are boys. So of this 238, 159 are boys, which means that because we have got 238, if I do 238 take away 159, that will tell me how many people are going to be girls. So we've got to do 8 take away 9, looking at the right hand side, which we can't do, so we have to borrow from the 3. So cross 3 out and make it a 2, and we're going to borrow a 10 in here. So I've now got 18 take away 9. So 18 take away 9, you can count back on your fingers or count on from 9 to 18 if you struggle to work out what that is. Or some of you will just know 9 times 2 is 18, so double it is 18, which means one lot of 9 has been taken away. Now 2 take away 5 we can't do, so we need to borrow from this 2, so we're going to cross it out and make it a 1, so take 1 from it, and we're borrowing the 10 from here and putting it in front of this 1, making this the number 12. I've now got 12 take away 5, so again you can count on from 5 to 12 if you need to, or count backwards, and you should find you get, well actually I would do 5 to make 10 is 5 plus 2 gives you the 12, which is 7. And then you've got 1 take away 1, which is 0, so you're left with the number 79, which needs to get written in the box, and this is how many people are girls with the pets. If you found this video useful, please give me a big tick and comment below to let me know how you found it. Great work if you managed to get the answer correct. Well done. Now the mark scheme says up to 2m, which means up to 2 method marks for this question. So if you got the answer 79, which you can see here is the correct answer, you would get 2 full marks, regardless of what you'd written down. But it is really good to show you're working, because it tells you in the question to do that, because you would get 1 mark if you made a mistake. So if you look through here, you can see the method to get that you would need to get 1 mark, or using this method here to get 1 mark here. So it says award 1 mark for the sight of the number 238 as evidence of 35% of 680 calculated correctly. So even if you just worked out 35% of 680 and didn't know what else to do, you would get 1 mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question using equivalent fractions and decimals. The key words in the question are that you've got to write a number in the box that you can see here to make the sum correct, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. Now, some people will look at this and think really easy, and other people will look at this and think I haven't got a clue what to do. I don't understand what this means. It just looks like a load of numbers randomly written on the page, and I don't understand what these symbols mean. So we're going to go through the key facts. So first of all, we're going to have to find some equivalent fractions, and the denominator here is 100. So because the denominator here is 100 on the one you want to find, you need to put these 2 denominators over 100 as well, so you can work out what the missing numerator is. Now this symbol here means less than. So that means 3/5 is less than the answer that you've got to give here, and this answer here has got to be less than 0.7. So this is the smallest number. This is the largest number, and this one will be in the middle. So that's all this sentence means, that 3/5 is smaller than your number over 100 is going to be smaller than 0.7. So just breaking it down, you need a number that is going to be between the numerator on the left-hand side and the numerator on the right-hand side, because this is the middle number. Basically, these have been put in order. 3/5 is the smallest, this one's the middle number, and this one's the largest, and this symbol here is just telling me that this is smallest and this is the biggest. Now sometimes you do see the symbol here where you've got less than or equal to, so that will make a difference as to what number you can write in the middle if it is equal to, but because it hasn't got that extra line under it, just means it's going to be between whatever numerators you're going to get on the left and on the right. Now get yourself a pen and paper, see if you can work out what the equivalent fractions are, or if you want to write it on your Chromebook or phone or wherever you want to write it, or think about it. Get yourself an answer, see if you can work out what could be in the middle. I'm going to let you know there won't be just one answer, there could be multiple answers that you could write down in this box and they would all be correct. So think of which answer you would write in that box and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So this is an unusual question because there are more than one answer to this question, whereas normally when you do a question, you only get one answer for every single question. So it is slightly different to normal. So in this question, we're going to start off by looking at this fraction here. And as I said, we're going to make the denominator 100. So the denominator in the middle is 100. So we need to make these denominators here 100. Now we're looking at how I'm going to get from 5 to 100. So what do you do to make 5 to get to 100? So we're going to have to do some kind of multiplying. Now some of you will know what you multiply 5 by to get 100. Others of you will look at it and think, I don't know how many times 5 goes into 100. Haven't got enough fingers to count on, and it's going to take too long, I can't be bothered. But we are going to show you a shortcut though, so you can be bothered to do the question. So we're going to look 5, instead of going 5 into 100, we're just going to look at 5 into 10. Now 5 into 10 is twice, and there's a 0 on the end, so it's 20. So 5 times 20 gives me 100. You could have counted up in multiple lots of 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, and done it 20 times, and you would have got there eventually to 100. So that means we need to do the same to the numerator. So we're going to multiply the 3 by 20. So we're going to multiply 3 by 2 and then add a 0. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus a 0 gives me 60. So this is 60 over 100. So the denominators are now the same. So the number in the middle has got to be bigger than 60. It cannot equal 60 because it doesn't have this line in here. So it could be 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, carry it on. We don't know how big the number could be, but it's any number bigger than 60, but not equal to 60. We're now going to look on the right hand side. So we've now got this value 0.7, so it's going to tell us the upper limit. Now 0.7, this is my ones column and this is my tenths column. So this, writing this decimal as a fraction, this means 7/10. And 7/10 is 7 over 10. That's what it means, 7/10. So 0.7 is 7 over 10, 7/10. Now we need to make the denominator 100 again. So we're going to go from 10 to 100. This time it's much easier. 10 times 10 is 100. So we're going to be multiplying by 10. So I need to do the same to the numerator in order to get the missing number up here. So 7 times 10 is 70. So my numerator here is 70. So this is the largest number it can be, but it cannot equal this number because there's no extra little line underneath here. So it can be anything up to 70. So this number in the middle has got to be bigger than 60 and smaller than 70. So you can pick any number between 60 and 70 and write it in this box here. But it cannot equal 60 and it cannot equal 70. So i.e. you could have written 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68 or 69. I've chose 65 because it's in the middle. It doesn't matter which number you choose. As long as you've written one number between 60 and 70 in this box here, you will get the 1 mark in the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. The mark scheme shows you will get 1 mark for anything in the range of 61 to 69. That means any number between 61 and 69, so it could be 62, 63, 64. It says inclusive, which means it includes 61 and it includes 69. So you need to make sure you've got any number between those to get the 1 mark in the exam. 1M just means 1 mark. Please don't write a percentage there, because if you wrote a percentage sign, you will not get the mark. These are fractions we're working with. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on finding factors. And you've got to tick all the numbers that are factors of both 54 and 72. And this will give you 1 mark in the exam. So it says tick the numbers. So because it says tick the numbers, you're going to be ticking more than one answer. And you've got to work out how many of these boxes you need to tick. So your key fact is that a factor is a number that goes into another number. And by looking at these answers here, you've got to see that it's a number that goes into both of these numbers. Otherwise, the numbers here would be bigger. So it kind of gives it away in the question that the factor is the number that goes into it. Press pause, see if you can think about which of these numbers goes into 54 and 72, and then press play when you've got your answer. Fantastic work. So I'm actually just going to write down the list of factor pairs for 54 and for 72, just so you can see where the working's coming from. In the exam, you'll probably just look and say, does 2 go into both of these numbers? Yes, it does, because it is even and they can be both divided by 2. So the first one is an easy tick. But I'm just going to list all the factors first, and then it will make it easier to do the other ones. So starting off with number 54, obviously 1 goes into every single number. So 1 is my first factor, and 1 times 54 is 54. Now you can write them next to each other and then go down in a list. So 1 times 54, 2 times whatever, 3 times whatever, 4, and then see like that. Or you can write them as a long list like this. You might need to leave a big gap because you don't know how many numbers are going to fit in between. The next one we're going to look at is dividing by 2. So we're going to be halving 54. We know it goes into 2 because this is even. Half of 50 is 25. Half of 4 is 2. So that means we've got 27 is 2 times 27 gives me 54. If we add the digits, 5 plus 4 is 9. So 9 is a multiple of 3. So this means this number can be divided by 3. How many times it goes in to divide by 3? We're dividing by 3 goes at the front. 54 is what we're dividing into. 3 into 5 is once. There are 2 left over, so that gets written here. And 3 into 24 goes 8. So it goes in 18 times. So 3 times 18. So it's a nice little check to see if a number is divisible by 3. So if you add these digits, 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3, so is 54. The next one we're going to look at is 4. So we know that half of 54 was 27, and this is an odd number, so we can't halve it again, which means 4 doesn't go into it. 5 is the next number. This number doesn't end in a 0 or a 5, so it doesn't go into 5. Next number is 6. So you should know your 6 times table, and you should know that 6 times by 9 is 54. So these are all the factors of 54. If you notice here, we're coming to 2 numbers which are quite close to each other. 7 and 8 is 56, which is close to 54. So 7 and 8 aren't going to fit in that gap in there. And this isn't a square number, so it's not going to be a repeated number in between. So we know we've got all the factor pairs. We're going to do the same for the number 72. So far you can see that 2, 3, so 2's in, 3's in, 4 isn't, so this one's going to be left blank, 8 isn't, and 9 is. So it's going to be the top 2 and the bottom one, but we've got to see if that is the same for 72. So again, starting with 72, always start with 1 times 72 is 72. This is even, so we know 2 goes into 72. And half of 70 is 35, half of 2 is 1, so that's 36. If we add the digits again to check whether it's divisible by 3, 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3, so we know that 72 goes in, can be divided by 3. So that means we've got a 2 and a 3, 2 and a 3 in here, so the top 2 boxes here can be ticked. Dividing 72 by 3, we need to do division unless you know what it is off the top of your head. 3 into 7 goes twice. There is 1 left over which gets put here. So we've now got 3 into 12 goes 4 times, so we've got the number 24. 4 into 72, so we know 2 went in 36. 36 is even, so that means 4 will go in. So we've just got to half 36. So you should know half of 30 is 15. Half of 6 is 3. 15 plus 3 is 18. The next number is 5. 5 doesn't go into 72 because it doesn't end in a 0 or a 5, so it's not a 5. Then we've got 6. So 6 into 72, you should know your 6 times table, and you should know 6 times 12 is 72. 7 doesn't fit into 72, but 8 does. And you should know your 8 times table, for 8 times 9 is 72. These numbers are next to each other, which means there are no numbers to fit in between. So these are all the factors of 72. So if we look at the two lists, we know that 2 is in both, 3 is in both, 4 is in the bottom one but not the top one, 8 isn't in the top one but it is in the bottom one, and 9 is in both of them. So the ones you need to tick are the number 2, the number 3, and the number 9. These are both factors of 54 and 72. You didn't need to write down this long list. You actually didn't even need to do the division sum here to work out how many times 3 went into the numbers. All you needed to know that these numbers were divisible by 3. So remember to check it's divisible by 3. Add the digits. Are they a multiple of 3? Yes, it is, so it's divisible by 3. And then you need to know which ones of these it is. So you could have just gone through the 2 times table. Are these both in the 2 times table? Yes. In the 3 times table? Yes. 4 times table, you'd have to work out that you couldn't halve 54 and halve it again. So no, it wasn't. 8, you need to know your 8 times table to see if these numbers are both in your 8 times table. And 9, they were both in your 9 times table. So you just needed to look through that way. Give yourself a big tick if you got those correct. Great work, well done. The mark scheme shows there's 1 mark or 1 M for getting all 3 answers, 2, 3 and 9 all correct. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question involving money. And you've got to work out altogether how many weeks. But the question says that you've got a camera, which you can see here, that costs £65. And you're told for the first 10 weeks, she saves £2 each week. Then she saves £3 each week. Altogether, how many weeks does it take Layla to save £65? Remember this word that's highlighted altogether. You must show your method, which means you must show the working that you're going to do in this box here. And then the answer gets written in front of this number here, this word here, weeks. This will give you 2 marks in the exam. So your key facts. You need to work out each part at a time and you need to read the question carefully. And you need to use the bus stop method to divide. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer. So get yourself some pen, paper or phone, whiteboard, whatever you want to write on. Get the answer and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic, so hopefully you've managed to have a good go at working out the answer to how many weeks there are altogether. So to start with, we know that the camera costs £65 and we're going to look at what happens to start with. So we've got 10 weeks and £2 each week is saved. So if we do 10 times 2, that gives me 20. That is how much has been saved in the first 10 weeks. Now the cost of the camera is £65. From now on, she's saving £3 each week. So we have to work out how much money it is for £3 each week. So if I do the £65, take away the £20 that we've already saved for the first 10 weeks, I've got 65, take away 20, which is going to give me £45. From here, she then saves £3 each week. So we have to know how many times 3 fits into 45. So that means we're going to do 45 divided by 3. The thing we're dividing by goes at the front of the bus stop, and we're dividing into 45. So to divide 45 by 3, we say how many times does 3 go into 4? It fits in once. How many is left over is 1. Then I've got 3 into 15 is 5. So it fits in 15 times, which means 15 weeks. Now the question says how many weeks altogether does Layla take to save £65? So she had 15 weeks saving at £3 and 10 weeks saving at £2. So altogether, we've got to add 15 plus 10, so the answer we've just worked out here, plus this 10 up here, which is going to give me 25, which will give me the answer here for 2 marks. If you got down here to 15, you would get 1 mark out of a 2. So make sure you've read the question carefully and you worked out the total cost altogether to give you £25. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Great work, well done. So make sure you read the question carefully and you follow through the steps and you work to get your answer. Well done if you managed to get the answer correct. The mark scheme here shows the answer is 25 for 2 marks, which is up to 2M, which means up to 2 method marks. You would get 1 mark if you wrote the answer of 15, or showing your appropriate method with 1 incorrect mistake made within here. So as long as you're showing you're working, you would get 1 mark if you didn't get the answer 25. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on division. Now the key instruction in the question is always in the blue box and it says complete the division. So here is the division sum. There are 2 boxes here and here, so one at the top and one at the bottom, and these 2 boxes here need to be completed and filled in, and this will give you 2 marks in the exam, and you need to know what the answers are in here, 1 mark for each box. So to help you work this out, you need to work through the division. So work through the question as you would do a normal division. I would recommend using long division, but it will work with short division. I'm going to show you how to do it with long division. So if you're going to use a method, I would recommend the long division. I'll show you where it's all coming from and how to get these answers in here. But just work through in order, in normal, and then you should be able to work out what goes here. Press pause. Write down the question, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to come up with some answers here and worked out what goes in the boxes. The first box is easier to do than the one underneath. So we're going to start off by looking at our 12 times table because we're going to be dividing by 12. You should be familiar with the 12 times table, but I've just written down the first few numbers of the 12 times table that we're going to need in this question to help us if you are not so confident with your 12 times table. So we're now looking at 12 into 4, which doesn't go. So we've now got to do 12 into 43. So 12 into 43, if you look down here, you can see 36, 48. 48 is too big, 36 is too small. So it fits in 1, 2, 3 times exactly, which is the number that goes at the top. And this will give you 1 mark for getting the number 3 in there. It went in 3 times 12 was 36. So we now have to subtract these numbers to work out the difference. So we can't do 3 take away 6. We have to borrow from before. So I'm going to cross it out and make it a 3. Then I've got a 10 in here, so I've got 13 take away 6, which is 7. Then I've got 3 take away 3, which is 0. So I've got the number 7. Now 12 obviously doesn't fit into 7 because otherwise it would have been carried on into this number here. So we have to bring down the 6. So we're now into 76. So you can see here 72 is just beneath 76. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, which is this number up here that's already written in there. So I need to write 72 underneath. And again, I'm going to subtract them. 6 take away 2 is 4. 7 take away 7 is 0. Now I can't do 12 into 4 again, so I need to bring this number down here, but we don't know what this number here is. That's what we've got to work out. But we know that when we do 12 into this number, the answer has got to be 4. Okay, then it's got a remainder 1, so this R means remainder 1. So I've got 4 times remainder 1. So we're looking at 12 times by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 12 times 4 is 48. So if it went in 4 times exactly, it would be 48 here. But I've got a remainder 1, which means I need to add an extra 1 to give me 49. So the number that appears at the top is going to be a 9. If I do 4 times 12, that gives me 48. I'm just going to carry on to show you why it works. Then when I subtract them, 9 take away 8 gives me 1, which is my remainder 1. 4 take away 4 is 0, which is irrelevant. We don't need to really worry too much about that. But this remainder 1 is the number underneath. This is really important example here with this remainder here, showing you how it works. Because if you go on to do A-level maths, if you get really good at maths, this remainder here, you'll be looking at quotients, you'll be looking at remainders, you're looking at divisors, and you'll have to do all this algebraically, which at this stage here, you're a long way away from. But when you come on to do much harder maths, this is the very good principle as to what happens. So it's a really good example to know how it works. Give yourself a big tick if you got this correct. Great work, well done. But this is the key concept for what you need to do in a higher level maths much later on. So well done if you managed to get it correct. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 3 and 9, and there's 1 mark for each box completed correctly, and up to 2M, which means up to 2 method marks. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe, and tell your friends so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on angles. You are given 4 shapes, A, B, C and D, and you've got to write down the letters of all the shapes that have only 2 acute angles. And this will be worth 1 mark in the exam when you write down all the shapes that have only got 2 acute angles in this line here. So to start with, you need to know your key facts. You need to know what the word acute means. So an acute angle is a very small angle, any angle less than 90 degrees. So a really small angle that looks like this, if it is less than 90 degrees, it is an acute angle. So it could be at a very small angle, or it could be up slightly higher. Any angle between 0 and coming up here to 90 is an acute angle. If it is 90 degrees, which is this angle here, this is a right angle. So these are your key facts that you need to know about this question. Now remember, if the angle does go between 90 and 180, you get an obtuse angle, and if it goes above 180, you end up with a reflex angle. But for this question, you'll just need to know what the acute and the right angle are. Press pause, have a go at working out which letter it is that you require, and then press play when you've got an answer. Fantastic works. Hopefully you've managed to work out which letters are correct. So we're going to start off with shape A, and we're going to look at the corners first. So the angle at the top here, it looks, if you see the squares here, you can see the right angle in there. This is less than 90 degrees, so this is an acute angle. Same on this corner here, and the same on this corner here. It looks a bit like an equilateral triangle, so they're all probably 60 degrees or thereabout. It doesn't tell you the sides are all equal, but it looks approximately like an equilateral triangle, so they're probably more or less 60, but it doesn't state that. But they are all acute. So we have got 1, 2, 3 acute angles, and it says that I have only 2 acute angles. So this has got 3 acute angles, not 2, so it is not this first shape. The next shape, if we look at the top left, we've got an acute angle up here, less than 90, and here we're less than a right angle again, so this is an acute angle. Down here, this is greater than 90, so this is an obtuse angle, and same here, this is also an obtuse angle because it is greater than 90. So here I've got 2 angles which are acute, so we need to write B down as our first letter. The next shape in C, at the top here we've got an acute angle, and on the right here we've got an acute angle, so these 2 angles are both less than 90. The corner here we have got a right angle, which means that that is 90 degrees, so it's not acute, so we have got 1, 2 angles which are acute, so C gets written down next. And on the last one on D, we've got an acute angle at the bottom here, and also the other side at the bottom are 2 acute angles. This angle up here is greater than 90, so this is obtuse. So I've got 1, 2 acute angles, which is D. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. The mark scheme shows the answers are B, C and D for 1M, which means 1 method mark. You can write down the letters in any order. It doesn't have to be in alphabetical order. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. Now this is a money problem, and you can see it's quite a wordy question. Even though it's broken down into different sections, there's quite a lot of words to comprehend. You've got to show you're working. In this box here, write the answer in the little box, and this will give you 3 marks in the exam. So we're going to start off with the key bits of information in the question and then help you tackle this question. So we know we've got a band holding a concert for charity, and you're told the tickets are £27 each. So this is a key bit of information. They are £27 each. And you're told they sell 635 tickets. They pay £3,180 to use the hall. And 1/3 of the remaining amount is given to charity. And this word here, remaining, is given to charity. So this is a key word, remaining. And you've got to work out how much does the band give to charity. Again, show your work. So show your method means write down the calculations that you're working out, write the answer in the box, and this will give you 3 marks in the exam if you get the answer correct. So your key facts. You need to read the question carefully. So key words like this remaining, which is highlighted, needs to be used. We have also got key information up here. So you're going to have to work out what the total, how much money do they earn from doing the concert. So using these 2 numbers here, you're going to have to work out how much money they earn. This is their costs, the cost of the hall. So you're going to have to work out how much profit they make. So remember, to find the profit is how much they earn, take away the cost that they're going to incur, which is the cost to use the hall. And then they're going to give 1/3 of the remaining profit to charity. Now this 1/3 is the same as a fraction 1/3, which means divide by 3. So when you're finding 1/3, basically you've just got to divide your answer by 3. So press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to work through and get an answer. So to start with, we're going to look at how much money they've made. So we're going to look at 27 tickets, £27 for each ticket, and they've sold 635, which means we've got to multiply those two numbers. And I'm going to show you using the column method. So we're going to multiply 635 by 27. You could use the grid method as well. You will get the same answer. It doesn't matter which method you prefer to use. I'm just going to show you using the column method, which is the one that normally gives you more marks on the mark scheme. So we start on the right hand side. So 7 times 5 is 35. So we carry a little 3, and then we've got the 5. Remember, that little 3 could carry underneath, or it could carry up here. It's personal preference as to where you put it. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 3 is 24. So again, we carry the 2 and the 4 comes underneath. 6 7s are 42, plus 2 is 44. So we've got 4,445 from multiplying 637 by 7. We're now multiplying by this 2. But this 2 isn't just any 2, it is the number 20 when we partition this. So because we're multiplying by a 20 now, we know when we multiply any number by a multiple of 10, we have to put a 0 on the end. So this is the magic 0 that has to go down there because we multiply by a 20, not just a 2. So we've now got 2 times 5, which is 10. So we're going to carry a 1 over and put a 0 down. 2 times 3 is 6, plus this 1, which gives me a 7. 2 times 6 is 12. So we've now got 12,700 for multiplying 635 by 20. We now need to add these 2 answers together. So we've got 5 plus 0 is 5. 4 plus 0 is 0. 4 plus 7 is 11. So we're going to carry a 1 again and then put the 1 underneath. Again, this 1 could carry underneath if you prefer. 4 plus 2 plus the 1 is 7. Then the 1 on the end gives you 17,145, and this would give you 1 mark for multiplying these 2 numbers together. Now you're told he pays 3,180 for the hall. So we need to know how much money is left over after they've paid for the hall, because we've got to work out how much for charity. So I'm going to take this answer here. take how much it cost for the haul, and then we're going to subtract these numbers to work out what the profit was. So 5 take away 0 is 5. Remember, we always start on the right hand side. 4 take away 8 we can't do, so we need to borrow from the 1. So I'm going to cross that 1 out and make this a 0. So taking 1 from the 0, and then I'm going to put a 10 in here. So I've now got 14 take away 8, which is going to give me 6. I can't do 0 take away 1, so I need to borrow from this 7. So I'm going to cross the 7 out and make it a 6 and put a 1 in here. So I've now got 10 take away 1, which is 9. 6 take away 3, which is 3. And 1 take away 0, which is 1, which will give you your second mark. So for 13,965. Now this is how much profit they've made. So from here it says they give 1/3 of the remaining amount to charity. So this is the remaining amount here, 13,965. So we've got to share that by 3. We've got to find 1/3 of it. So we're going to divide by 3 of the remaining amount, which was 13,965. So we now do 3 into 1, which doesn't go. So I carry on the little 1 that was here. So whatever number was here gets written here. 3 into 13, so we know 3 times 4 is 12, and to get to 13 there's 1 left, so we carry a little 1 in here. 3 into 19, so you should know that 3 times 6 is 18. Again, to get to 19 there's 1 left over, so we have to put a little 1 in here. 3 into 16, so you should know 3 times 5 is 15, so the 5 gets written up here, and to get from 15 to 16 there's 1 left over, so I put a 1 in here. And again, 3 into 15 is 5, so that number gets written up here. So this is 1/3 of the remainder, which is what we've got to find, how much money gives to charity. So 1/3 of the remaining amount is going to charity. So this is 1/3 of the remaining amount, which is the 4,655. Remember to write a comma after the thousands number to help split up the number, but don't make it too big so it's nice and clear that the answer is 4,655, not 41,655. Give yourself a big tick if you've got that correct. Great work. You've done really well. Well done. You will get method marks along the way if you have made mistakes, but make sure you show you're working out nice and clearly so the examiner can give you as many marks as possible. The mark scheme on this question shows we're up to 3 marks, so up to 3M for this. So make sure you have read through the information carefully. You've looked here where you would get 2 marks or even 1 mark down here. So it says the site of the 17,145 or 13,965. This was step 1, this was the second step, and this was the final correct answer. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on using substitution. And you're told that Sarah makes some jewellery. You can see the pattern in the jewellery. She's got 1, 2, 3 black beads, and then she puts a white bead down. She says she uses this rule to work out how many black beads to use. So she says the number of black beads is the white beads times by 3 plus 4. So you can see here I've got a white bead. Okay, if I times that by 3, so 1 times 3 is 3, so I can see I've put 3 black beads on here. And then there's an extra 4, which are the 4 that are written over here or drawn over here. So that's what rule she's using to work out how many black and white beads she needs for this pattern. So we're going to look at this rule. This is going to be really helpful. And it tells you that Sarah uses 12 white beads. So this word here, white, we're using 12 of the white beads to make her necklace. And you've got to work out how many black beads she uses. You've got to write the answer in this box here, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. So your key facts. You're going to replace this word with a number. Okay, so this word white, you've got to replace this word white with the number that's been given in the question. Then you need to work out the answer to work out how many black beads there are. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Welcome back. So hopefully you've managed to work out how many black beads there were. Now in this question it tells us there are 12 white beads. So white is going to be replaced with the number 12. So we've got to work out 12 times by 3. So this 12 is going to go in here. So we've got to do 12 times 3. Now you should know your 3 times table. So 12 times 3, so you should know 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 10 is 30, so we've got 36. Then once you've got this answer, because it's written in brackets, so this is the bit we work out first, it says add on 4. So we're going to take the answer we've just got, add on 4. So 36 plus 4 is 40, which is the answer you need to write in this box here for 1 mark. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Great work, well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answers 40 for 1M, which means 1 method mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. Now in this question, this links on to another question which is very, very similar. So you can see in our diagram we have got Sarah making jewellery, and in our diagram you can see there are 3 black beads up here, 1 white bead, and there are 4 beads on their own. And you're told that she uses this rule to work out how many black beads. So the number of black beads is equal to the white beads times 3. So you can see here I've got 1 white bead, I times it by 3, so it gives me the 3 black beads. And then I've got to add on these extra 4 beads here that are given initially. Now you're told that she uses 25 black beads. So you've got to work out how many beads she uses, and you've got to write the answer in the box here for 1 mark. So you're working out the number of black beads. So it's slightly different to the other question, which was very similar, where you had to work out the white beads. Now we're working out this time we're working out the white beads. Last time we had to work out the black beads. This is worth 1 mark in the exam. So your key facts, you need to replace the word with a number. So in this case, you're told you've got 25 black beads, so you need to replace the word with the number. Then you've got to work out the answer. So you need to know your families, your number families. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. So we're going to be looking at an equation here where you're going to be taking things to the opposite side. So you need to know the families in order to be able to solve the problem. So you need to know the opposite of adding is subtracting. The opposite of subtracting is adding. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. And the opposite of dividing is multiplying. So you need to know these 4 facts here. So these 2 come as a pair, and then these bottom 2 come as a pair. You need to be familiar with that in order to help you solve the question that you're going to have here. So press pause, see if you can write down an equation and then work out how to use these facts here to get the answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to work out how many white beads we needed. So instead of writing the word black, we're going to write 25. So there were 25 black beads. So instead of writing the word black, we're going to write 25. And it's going to equal the number of white beads. Now I'm just writing W rather than the word white because mathematicians are generally quite lazy, so we shorten things. So instead of writing the word white, we're just going to write the letter W. We're still timesing it by 3, and then we're adding 4. Now I haven't bothered putting the brackets in here because when you've only got add and multiply together, you technically don't need the brackets, but it is a little bit of an indication that that's the bit you do first and then you add on the 4. So when we come to solve this, we've got to go the opposite way, so that will give you a bit of a clue. But these brackets, you could write in a bracket or you don't have to write in the brackets. It doesn't change the answer because when you do your BizMaths, multiply comes before add. So we've got to find W. So you've got to think of the number of white beads times by 3 plus 4, the answer is 25. Now some children will be able to look at that and just know what the answer is. They'll just know how many white beads there are because they can think, okay, try a number, 2 times 3 is 6 plus 4. Okay, that's not 25, so that's not right. Let me try again and keep going until you get the answer 25 to work out what the white beads are. And some people will be able to just do that in their head. A lot of people find that very difficult to do in their head. So there is an alternative method, which is the more algebraic method to use, especially when you go on to do harder level maths. It's a really good method to understand how this actually works. So, as I said before, these brackets in here doesn't matter if you write them or not, but that means this is the bit you do first, and this +4 is the bit you do second. So we're going to get rid of the thing we do second, which is the +4. So we want to do the opposite to +4. So if you look over here, it says opposite to plus is subtract. So the opposite to +4 is going to be subtract 4, which means I need to take 4 from both sides of the equation to make sure the equation stays balanced. 25 take away 4 is 21. W times 3 is still exactly the same. And +4 take away 4 is nothing. So I'm left with 21 is equal to W times 3. Now I need to get W on its own. So I need to get rid of this times by 3. Now the opposite to times by 3, the opposite of multiply is divide. So I'm now going to divide both sides by 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so I'm left with 1W, or just a W. So 7 is equal to the W, which means the white beads. Often people like to write it the other way around, so I've got the number of white beads, or W, is equal to 7. So that means how many white beads does she use? The answer is 7 that needs to go in this box here. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer 7 for 1M, which means 1 method mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on 3D shapes, and the question says complete the table, and in the table you were told the name of the shape, and you've been given the names of the shapes here. You've got the number of faces, and you've got to write the answer in these boxes here, and this will give you 1 mark for getting all 3 of these numbers correct. So your key fact, you need to know what this word here, faces, means. So a face means a flat surface or shape. So how many flat surfaces are there of the shape? So the easiest way to do it is to imagine what the shape is, or draw it out to help you count the number of faces. So you've got to imagine that you know what all these shapes are, and then you've got to work out how many faces there are, or how many flat surfaces there are on each of these shapes in order to work out the answer. Press pause, get yourself a pen and paper, see if you can work out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to work out the answer to these 3 questions. And as I said, it is really key that you know what these words mean. So the first shape here is a cube. So you should all be very familiar with a cube. The most obvious cube shape that you probably come across is a dice or a die. So if you think about the little dice that you throw when you play any game, that is a cube. And it will look something like this. Or you can think of an ice cube. That's why it's called a cube, because it's an ice cube. So when you're looking at this, we're looking at the number of faces. So you can see at the front is 1 face. At the back is another face. Then you've got the side on the left, the side on the right. You've got the top, and you've also got the bottom, which gives you front, back, which are 2, side and side is 2, top and bottom are 2, which gives you 2 plus 2 plus 2, which is 6 in total. So there are 6 faces on a cube. So you should be familiar that a cube has got 6 faces. The next one is a pentagonal prism. Now remember, there is a difference between a prism and a pyramid. A prism is a shape where it's got the same shape all the way through it, and a pyramid comes up to a point at the top. So if you think of ancient Egypt pyramids, they always come up to a point. So that's the difference between a prism and a pyramid. So the prism is a pentagonal prism. Now you need to know what a pentagon is. So you should be familiar that a pentagon is a 5-sided shape. So a pentagonal prism has got a 5-sided shape at the bottom, a 5-sided shape at the top, and then it's just got lines drawing them. So it's exactly the same shape all the way through, and the shape that it is on either end is defined by this first part of it, which is the pentagon. So if you look at this shape here, we know it's got 5 sides. So that means there's 5 sides going round the sides, because there's 5 sides to the shape. So you've got 5 going round the sides. You've got 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom. So 5 plus 2 is 7. So a pentagonal prism has got 7 faces. The last one is a triangular base pyramid. Now a pyramid always comes up to a point and it tells you it's got a triangle at the bottom. So it's basically a triangle at the bottom coming up to a point. And if you work out the faces on here, you can see there's going to be a face on the left side, the right side, and then one at the back. So that's 3 at the top, and then the one it's sitting on, which is going to be 4. So a triangular base pyramid has got 4. So you've got the number of sides, which is going to be 3 in this case, plus the one at the bottom, which is going to be 4. That will give you 1 mark in the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you got those correct. Great work, you've done really well. The mark scheme shows the answer in the boxes for 1M, and you have to get all of them correct to get the mark on this. Give yourself a big tick if you got these correct, and please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on multiplying fractions, and you're given 2 fractions to multiply together. So on the left hand side here you've got a half times by 5 over 6, and you're told it is greater than the value of 1/3 times by 7 over 8. And you've got to explain how you know. So you've got to write your answer in this box here, or in this bubble, to say why this fraction on the left is greater than the one on the right, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. So your key facts when you're multiplying: you need to know that your answer will be a fraction, and when you're multiplying, your numerators need to be the same, and then you need to multiply your denominators. So multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and that's how you work it out. Then cancel the answer if you can, or you can cancel then multiply. Now you will find in this question here you do not need to cancel these last few steps here, because all you've got to do is multiply the numerators and the denominators. But you've got to be careful when you compare, because you cannot just say that this on the left is bigger than the one on the right, or you've got to make a clear comparison as to why the one on the left is bigger than the one on the right. So these denominators are going to come in really key. So I'm going to let you think about it, have a go working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So have a go at doing the question, press pause, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done. So we're going to look at the fraction on the left. So we're going to multiply the numerators. So the numerator is the number at the top. So 1 times 5 is 5, and the denominator 2 times 6 is 12. So this is the same as 5 over 12. The fraction on the right, we're going to do the same. So 1 times 7 is 7. 3 times 8 is 24. So I've got 7 over 24. Now if you look here, the denominators are different. Okay, so you've got to work out a common denominator so you can compare the numerators. So 24 is the bigger number. So we've got to look at the smaller number. Does 12 fit into 24? Yes, it does. So this is the one we're going to change. Now you know that 12 goes into 24 twice. So if I double 12, I get 24. That means I need to do the same to the numerator. So if I multiply 5 by 2 or double 5, gives me 10. So 10 over 24 is the same as 5 over 12, because I can just double both of these numbers and write them down underneath. Now they've both got a common denominator, I can write down the 2 fractions. Okay, so I've got 10 over 24 and 7 over 24. Now you're told that this fraction on the left, here in green, is greater. Now this symbol here means is greater than the one on the right, 7 over 24. Now because the denominators are the same, you can see we can look at the numerators. So 10 is bigger than 7. Yes, it is. So that's how we know. So I've just written it in words just to help you understand. So because 10 is larger than 7, that means that the fraction on the left is greater than the fraction on the right. So 10 over 24 is greater than 7 over 24 because 10 is greater than 7. That will give you 1 mark in the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you've got that correct. You do not have to write it out word to word as how I've written it. I'll show you the mark scheme in a minute. There are different ways of representing this, and as long as your answer is clear that you've got both of these two fractions here and you've stated why this one is bigger than this one, you will get the mark in the exam. Now the mark scheme here shows that you'll get 1 mark for an explanation that shows the comparison of the calculations. So these were the two answers we're looking at, 5/12 and 10/24 and 7/24, and you've got to compare them and explain why. You're not allowed an explanation with incorrect mathematical knowledge or just stating 5/12 is bigger than 7/24. You have to have the denominators the same. You can't just say it's bigger. You must show why. Okay, so accept responses that restate, do not accept responses that restate the question. You've got to be clear as to why one is bigger than the other to get the 1M, which is the 1 method mark in the exam. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Please follow Get Great at Maths on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and X. What do you want to see next on Get Great at Maths? Please comment below. See you next time.